What if I told you there's an ancient book that was so controversial, so filled with extraordinary visions, that it was deliberately excluded from the Bible we know today? A book that claims to reveal the secrets of heaven, the names of fallen angels, and prophecies about the end times? This is the story of Enoch, the man who walked with God and never died, in the mysterious book that bears his name. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because today we're uncovering one of the most fascinating and debated texts in biblical history. The Book of Enoch tells the story of one of the most enigmatic figures in biblical history. In Genesis, we read just a few lines about Enoch. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away. That's it. But what if there was more to this story? According to the Book of Enoch, this righteous man didn't just walk with God, he was taken on incredible journeys through the heavens, shown the secrets of creation, and given prophecies about humanity's future. The book claims to be Enoch's own account of these supernatural experiences. But here's what makes this fascinating. While the Book of Enoch was widely read and quoted in ancient times, even referenced in the New Testament, it was eventually excluded from the biblical canon. Why? We'll explore that as we go through this incredible story. The Book of Enoch begins with one of the most dramatic stories in ancient literature. It tells us about a group of angels called the Watchers, heavenly beings assigned to watch over humanity. But these angels had a problem. They became fascinated with human women. According to Enoch, 200 of these Watchers, led by an angel named Semjaza, made a pact. They descended to Mount Hermon and took human wives for themselves. This wasn't just a simple romance. It was a cosmic rebellion that would have devastating consequences. These fallen angels didn't just marry human women, they began teaching humanity forbidden knowledge. Azazel taught men how to make weapons and armor. Barachiel taught astrology. Others taught makeup, jewelry making, and various forms of sorcery and divination. But the most catastrophic result of these unions was the birth of the Nephilim, giant hybrid beings, part human and part angelic. These giants grew to enormous size and became violent, consuming everything in their path. They devoured all the food, then began eating animals, and finally turned to cannibalism, even consuming humans. The earth became corrupted, filled with violence and unnatural knowledge. Humanity cried out to heaven for help, and their prayers reached the throne of God. This is where Enoch enters the story in a powerful way. God chose Enoch, described as a righteous scribe, to deliver a message of judgment to the fallen angels. Imagine being chosen by the Almighty to confront rebellious supernatural beings. Enoch was taken up to heaven, where he witnessed the glory of God's throne room. He describes seeing the crystal palace of God surrounded by fire and ice, where the Ancient of Days sits in judgment. The detail in these visions is breathtaking. Walls of hailstones, floors of crystal, and the presence of God so overwhelming that even the highest angels cover their faces. But Enoch's mission wasn't just to witness heaven's glory. He was tasked with delivering God's verdict to the Watchers. Their punishment would be severe and eternal. They would be bound in darkness until the final judgment, and they would be forced to watch their giant offspring destroy each other. When Enoch delivered this message to the fallen angels, they begged him to write a petition for mercy to God. But when Enoch presented their plea in heaven, the answer was clear. There would be no forgiveness for their cosmic treason. But Enoch's experiences didn't end with that mission. The Book of Enoch describes multiple journeys through different levels of heaven, each more magnificent than the last. He was shown the storehouses of snow and hail, the chambers where winds are kept, and the places where Enoch witnessed the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. He saw the throne room of God and met the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, each with their specific roles in God's cosmic order. He learned the names of stars, the paths of celestial bodies, and the calendar that heaven follows. Perhaps most remarkably, Enoch was shown the fate of human souls after death. He visited the places where the righteous dead await resurrection, and the chambers where the wicked are tormented. These visions provided detailed descriptions of the afterlife that wouldn't be matched in biblical literature until much later. Throughout these journeys, Enoch served as humanity's representative, learning divine secrets that he would later record for future generations. One of the most significant portions of the Book of Enoch contains detailed prophecies about a coming Messiah. Centuries before the birth of Jesus, this text spoke of the Son of Man, who would judge the earth, defeat evil, and establish God's kingdom. The book describes this Messiah as pre-existent, sitting on God's throne and possessing divine authority to judge both humans and angels. The parallels to New Testament descriptions of Jesus are striking, which is why many early Christians valued this book highly. Enoch's prophecies also speak of the final judgment, when the earth will be purified, the righteous will be vindicated, and God will dwell with humanity in a new creation. These themes resonate throughout biblical prophecy and provide a bridge between Old and New Testament expectations. The text describes how knowledge and righteousness will be restored to the earth, and how the corruption introduced by the fallen angels will be completely cleansed. So why isn't the Book of Enoch in our Bibles today? The answer reveals important principles about how the biblical canon was formed. First, questions arose about authorship. While the book claims to be written by the pre-flood Enoch, most scholars believe it was actually composed by multiple authors between the 3rd century BC and the 1st century AD. The real Enoch lived thousands of years earlier. Second, while the book was popular in some circles and is even quoted in the New Testament, particularly in Jude, it wasn't universally accepted by Jewish or Christian authorities. The early church fathers debated its authenticity and inspiration. Third, some of its content was seen as potentially contradictory to established biblical teaching, particularly its elaborate angelology and detailed descriptions of cosmic geography that couldn't be verified through other biblical sources. By the 4th century AD, the Book of Enoch had largely been excluded from the biblical canon, though it remained important in Ethiopian Christianity, where it's still considered canonical today. What can we learn from the Book of Enoch today? Even if we don't consider it canonical scripture, this ancient text offers profound insights into how people understood spiritual warfare, divine justice, and human responsibility. First, it reminds us that our actions have consequences that extend beyond ourselves. The fallen angels' rebellion affected all of creation, showing how choices made by those in positions of power and knowledge can impact entire generations. Second, it emphasizes the importance of staying faithful to God's design. The Watchers fell because they abandoned their assigned roles and boundaries. This teaches us about the importance of contentment with our calling and respect for divine order. Third, it shows us that God sees and responds to injustice. When humanity cried out because of the giants' oppression, God heard and acted. This reminds us that even when evil seems to triumph, divine justice will ultimately prevail. Finally, Enoch himself serves as a model of faithfulness. In a corrupt generation, he walked with God and was rewarded with incredible revelations and ultimately translation to heaven without experiencing death. The Book of Enoch may not be in our Bibles, but its influence on Jewish and Christian thought cannot be denied. It shaped how people understood angels, prophecy, and the cosmic battle between good and evil for centuries. Whether you view it as inspired scripture or valuable ancient literature, the Book of Enoch challenges us to consider the bigger picture of God's plan for creation and our role in that cosmic story. What do you think? Should the Book of Enoch be considered alongside biblical texts, or was the early church right to exclude it? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into biblical history and ancient texts. Until next time, keep seeking truth and walking faithfully with God.